Please like the video and share it so that it reaches many more people and you get sawaba, or rewards from Allah. This could be a sawabe jariyah or continuous reward for you long after you are gone.
Volume 7, Book 63, number 215. Narrated by Ibn Abbas. Allah's apostle performed the tawaf around the Kaaba while riding his camel, and every time he reached the corner of the black stone, he pointed at it with his hand and said, Allahu Akbar. Zainab said, the Prophet said, an opening has been made in the wall of Gog and Magog like this and this, forming the number 90, with his thumb and index finger. Volume 7, Book 63, number 216. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. Abul Qasim, the Prophet, said, there is an hour, or a moment, of particular significance on Friday. If it happens that a Muslim is offering a prayer and invoking Allah for some good at that very moment, Allah will grant him his request. The sub-narrator placed the top of his finger on the palm of the other hand between the middle finger and the little one. Volume 7, Book 63, number 216. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. During the lifetime of Allah's apostle, a Jew attacked a girl and took some silver ornaments she was wearing and crushed her head. Her relative brought her to the Prophet while she was in her last breaths, and she was unable to speak. Allah's apostle asked her, who has hit you? So and so. Mentioning somebody other than her murderer. She moved her head, indicating denial. The Prophet mentioned another person other than the murderer, and she again moved her head, indicating denial. Then he asked, was it so and so? Mentioning the name of her killer. She nodded, agreeing. Then Allah's apostle ordered that the head of that Jew be crushed between two stones. Volume 7, Book 63, number 217. Narrated by Ibn Umar. I heard the Prophet saying, afflictions will emerge from here, pointing towards the east. Volume 7, Book 63, number 218. Narrated by Abdullah bin Abi Awfa. We were with Allah's apostle on a journey, and when the sun set, he said to a man, get down and prepare a drink of soik for me. The man said, O Allah's apostle, will you wait till it is evening? Allah's apostle again said, get down and prepare a drink of soik. The man said, O Allah's apostle, will you wait till it is evening, for it is still daytime? The Prophet again said, get down and prepare a drink of soik. So the third time the man got down and prepared a drink of soik for him. Allah's apostle drank thereof and pointed with his hand towards the east, saying, when you see the night falling from this side, then a fasting person should break his fast. Volume 7, Book 63, number 219. Narrated by Abdullah bin Mas'ud. The Prophet said, the call, or the adhan, of Bilal should not stop you from taking the suhoor meals, for Bilal calls, or pronounces the adhan, so that the one who is offering the night prayer should take a rest, and he does not indicate the daybreak or dawn. The narrator, Yazid, described how dawn breaks by stretching out his hands and then separating them wide apart. Volume 7, Book 63, number 219. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. Allah's Apostle said, "The example of a miser and a generous person is like that of two persons wearing iron cloaks from the breast up to the neck when the generous person spends. The iron cloak enlarges and spread over his skin so much so that it covers his fingertips and obliterates his tracks. As for the miser, as soon as he thinks of spending, every ring of the iron cloak sticks to its place, against his body, and he tries to expand it, but it does not expand." The Prophet pointed with his hand towards his throat. Volume 7, Book 63, number 220. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. Allah's Apostle said, "Shall I tell you of the best families among the Ansar?" They, the people, said, "Yes, O Allah's Apostle." The Prophet said, "The best are Banu an-Najjar, and after them are Banu Abdul Ashhal, and after them are Banu al-Harith bin al-Khazraj, and after them are Banu Sa'idah." The Prophet then moved his hand by closing his fingers and then opening them like one throwing something, and then said, "Anyhow, there is good in all the families of the Ansar." Volume 7, Book 63, number 221. Narrated by Sa'al bin Sa'd as-Sa'idi. A companion of Allah's Apostle, holding out his middle and index fingers, said, "My advent and the hours are like this, or like these." Namely, the period between his era and the hour is like the distance between those two fingers, that is, very short. Volume 7, Book 63, number 222. Narrated by Ibn Umar. The Prophet, holding out his 10 fingers thrice, said, "The month is thus and thus and thus, namely 30 days. Then, holding out his 10 fingers twice and then 9 fingers, he said, "It may be thus and thus and thus, namely 29 days. He meant once 30 days and once 29 days. Volume 7, Book 63, number 223. Narrated by Abu Mas'ud. The Prophet pointed with his hand towards Yemen and said twice, "Faith is there," and then pointed towards the east, and said, "Verily, sternness and mercilessness are the qualities of those who are busy with their camels, and pay no attention to their religion, where the two sides of the head of Satan will appear, namely, the tribes of Rablah and Makkah."